The shocking reality of the streets of Minneapolis, how the city fell apart, and a viral video tour that revealed it all. Next. Stanley Genetic, known better, I think, as Dirt Monkey, runs a popular YouTube channel about construction and landscaping. It took a sudden turn recently. But thanks for being here, Stan. Good to see you.
Thanks, Liz. Appreciate you having me here.
You took a break from digging to do this video that I've wanted to talk to you about ever since, but it's been viewed hundreds of thousands of times. Talk first when you did this and why you wanted to.
I did this in November of 2024. We're going to go on a tour of all the places in Minneapolis that they won't show you on the news and that no one is talking about. And I had seen what was going on inside of the city that I grew up in. And I've grown up in Minneapolis, right on the outskirts of it for my entire life, so for 53 years. And I've worked digging basements and demoing houses and building walls and doing stuff inside of Minneapolis for the better part of the last 20 to 30 years, whatever. I don't want to age me too much, Liz. But I noticed things were taking a sudden and dramatic turn, but nobody was speaking out about this. You could find blurps on the news here and there, but the truth of how far everything had fallen was not out there for people to see in a way that they could actually experience it. Like, let's get granular with this thing and let's actually look at what's going on, not these formal presentations where the news comes on and tells you, oh, there was a fire in a homeless encampment, and you're so disconnected, you just go, where is that? I don't know anything about it. No, let's show the people what's actually happening in the world around them.
So you're on the ground, you're driving around, there is a lot to see. Fair to say you have a different perspective of the city today?
Oh, God. Minneapolis is nothing like it used to be. And I don't know when it actually really started to go bad fast, but it's almost like a toilet flushing, right? Starts out, and then by the time you get to the bottom, boom, it's too late. Everything's gone. And that's where Minneapolis is at this point. It's to the point where, how do we pull back from this? And a lot of people, they think that this is, these homeless encampments are an issue with people that have lost their job. That's not it at all, Liz. These aren't people that have lost their job. When I did this video, there's 400 beds available for these people to sleep in. They could get in and out of their tents. They could go sleep inside, but they gotta quit doing their drugs to be able to access those facilities. And so they choose to do their drugs over get in and out, get out of the weather. And that's where it became this really aha moment of the homeless encampments are really a drug problem and mental health, of course, but it's this 1-2 combination of this is where things have gotten. And when did the drugs get bad, Liz? 4 years ago when the borders got open, right? When they just created this mass importation.
And you actually went inside the encampments. I'm going to be honest, it's really sad to see. I mean, these were teenagers. They were kids talking to you. They look like zombies. But set the scene a little bit more about what you actually saw when you went inside.
A blue state, a blue city with a blue governor and a blue mayor. Let's go behind the blue tarp and see some more. I knew that it was bad, so nothing really, I could say, shocked me about what I was going to see when I got inside. And I don't have a perfect life. I'm familiar enough with drug use and abuse in my own family and around me to know that, hey, this is what happens when you let an addiction take over. So as I walked into these facilities, I just found people that were gone. They're just lost. They're just living from fix to fix. They never have these moments of real clarity. So, and then you take a camera with you, and you know what? You get some animosity towards you as you're going through and exploring these regions.
Not only are these encampments set up next to people's homes, as you mentioned, they've caused fires. They've been so many homicides have been reported at these encampments, ODs. We've done several stories here at Alpha News, what it's like living next to all of this. You also talk about how they've set up under bridges unless the state spends thousands of dollars to put up this iron fencing to keep them out. And what's interesting is it's hard to almost track them. It's fair to say that there's dozens and dozens of encampments, but you're right, they didn't exist even just a few years ago.
You know what was really interesting was how they take an abandoned lot, a lot in a block, a residential block, and the city allows them to set up their encampments. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones is on the right, Mr. and Mrs. Smith is on the left, and in between are 20 or 30 homeless people living under tarps with portable heaters going. Are you not expecting fires to break out? I mean, you're legitimately putting the people in the neighborhood at jeopardy. One of the guys I interviewed, I mean, he spoke broken English. But one of the things I picked up was the needles were a big problem for him. The pets, he mentioned that there's needles. The dogs can't walk. People can't walk by because there's needles laying all over in the ground. And when I went into one of the encampments, there was a gal sitting there. I don't know what she was doing, but she was bent over a pile of rocks, and it looked like she was getting ready to do her next fix. But that wasn't even the scariest thing, Liz. As I'm just driving down the road, you start to open your eyes, and I look in a bus shelter, and there's 2 or 3 people underneath a blanket. And when you can kind of look as you're driving by, you can see what they're doing inside of the bus shelter. Now, Liz, this bus shelter is directly across the road from a park where I look over there, there's kids playing. And so when they're getting out of the wind to do their crack in the bus shelter, they then go over to the park where the kids are playing. And when the bus shelter's full of people doing their drugs, then they just do it in the same park where the kids are playing. And we just look the other way. We just have a blind eye, right? But we're busy, arguing about putting tampons in boys' bathrooms? Come on, what is going on with this country, Liz? When did we get our priorities so screwed up that we can't fix the problems that not only affect the people that it's hurting, but all the people around them and our own children? When did our priorities get totally screwed up?
Yeah, that's what I want to ask you on that note. People have told you not to get political on your channel. I've seen that. What do you say to that? And what has the reaction been to that video?
I will not self-censor to appease the audience, okay? And the people that tell me not to get political don't understand how to run a business, right? Because as a business owner, I started my channel to help guy contractors like myself understand how to build their own companies, okay? Well, when you want to go out and start a business, you want to build a business, you've got to take everything into consideration. And if you don't think politics affects your business, ask all of those businesses that went under when our good old governor shut down Minnesota over COVID. How many businesses did we lose out of there? How many employees of those businesses were going hungry because they didn't have work, because we all had to sit home for a freaking flu virus that killed less than 1% of the people? What was it, 0.25 or 0.3% of the population? About the same as the influenza virus when that first came out. So if you don't think politics impacts your business, go ask those people if it does. Because it does. And so they tell me to stay out of it. But you know what, Liz? Why would I stay out of something that is the very part and heart and soul of what the channel is about? It's like a cooperative, helping contractors figure out how to be better contractors, helping guys understand how to run their business, showing jobs, showing the progress, and just living that lifestyle. This is part of our life, Liz. And it's not something we can stick our head in the sand, bury it, and hope it goes the other way, because it's not going to. By sticking our head in the sand, all we've done is gotten to this point. We've allowed all of this to happen. We've got to stand up, speak up, and not worry about the people that cry, oh, no, you got to shut up. No, you know what? I need to have a bigger mouth than you need to have.
Couldn't agree more. Do you, and your crews, do they work in the city of Minneapolis anymore?
No. I remember one of the last times I personally worked in Minneapolis, and this was 18 years ago, that I was personally digging a basement. I demoed a house, and then I had to dig the basement and set all the grades, right? And I'm digging, and I'm strapping up my equipment. I'm putting it on the trailer, and there's a shooting right behind me, across the street, right there. And I'm just like, head down, don't look. And I'm peeking, and I'm like, okay, wait for it. And the cops come by, and I'm like, hey, the guys went that way. This is what they look like. And they're just like, yeah, don't worry about it. There's nothing we can do about it. Nobody got hurt during that. And then another time there was a drug deal going on, like right behind me. And I'm like, hey, guys, just want to let you know, I just watched these guys do this drug deal. And they're like, yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. It was almost like the police had given up. But can you blame them? The city is so out of control, especially now when we have people screaming, defund the police. And what do we lose? Almost half of our police force? Not quite half. But I think it's rebounded. Do you know if it's rebounded yet, Liz?
No, it's down by more than 40%. So you're still right with those numbers. Yep.
And what is the motivation to come back to work when you know that at any point, everything you're doing can be scrutinized and held against you? And worst possible thing, you can pay the price of the rest of your time because we have to kowtail to make somebody else and appease somebody else to make them happy.
5 years ago, could you have ever even imagined that Minneapolis would look this way? And also that so many people, I think you really hit the nail on the head here, have just stayed silent about it.
I think it's because every time somebody speaks up, Liz, they get so much backlash, right? And I mean, look, I got to say this. I want to put this out there. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm what I consider to be a patriot. I believe that the Republicans are almost as bought out as the Democrats. We even have a nickname for them. They're called rhinos for a reason, right? The rhinos are no better than the socialist Democrats. And if you going, oh my God, he called Democrats socialists. The Socialist Party is actually part of the Democrat Party. It's known. Look it up. If you don't think they have a socialist agenda behind everything they do, well, you got to think again, because they actually do. So when I say I'm not one or the other, I consider myself to be one of those guys that just wants freedom of speech. I want you to argue with me. I want you to not agree with me. I want you to say you're wrong, but I want you to be able to do that, because over in Europe, if you even comment on a social media post, you can have your freedom taken away. Australia is getting that way as well. There's so many parts of the country, parts of the world where this is happening, and it's happening and escalating at a pace that people don't even realize because they put their blinders on. They're happy. They can go to Walmart and get their milk, Liz. They can still do that. They can still turn on their news and be fed their propaganda because they believe everything that goes on the different kinds of news networks. And they buy into it because looking behind the scenes can be a scary thing. It's almost like you don't want to peel back the veil, because if you knew what was actually happening, you'd try to shut those curtains as fast as possible and go, no, I didn't see that. I didn't see nothing, right? Because people thrive. They thrive on safety and security. They don't want to tip the apple cart, Liz. But there are people like you with your documentary that are willing to stand up. And guys like you, and I know you're not a guy, Liz, but you know what I mean. Guys like you that speak out about this help everybody else have confidence to be able to speak out on their own as well. So I want to thank you, because your documentary was absolutely amazing to me. Absolutely freaking amazing. I can't tell you how much trouble I got in for pushing that. I was on a bus on an event, and I got tons of social media influencers with me, Liz, and they're all like, oh, Minneapolis is so nice. And I'm like, you guys are idiots. You know nothing about this city. You know absolutely nothing. And I started going into it. And I mean, we're talking about guys that have millions of followers, and I'm trying to educate them. And you did it all in 1.5 hour event. So thank you for that.
That's very kind. Thank you. Actually, that's when I first heard about your channel, and I can't even believe that I hadn't heard about it before. I'm learning all kinds of things about tools and digging basements that I'm sure will come in handy in the future for me. But Stanley, Genetic, follow him on X, Real Dirt Monkey. You can find him there and subscribe to his YouTube channel. As you can see, very entertaining, and you'll learn something as well. But thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it.
That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We'll see you next time.